So I'll do another cup here just to show you all those kind of last finishing steps. This particular angle is a good angle to view things from because you can see what my hands are doing. All right, I'm gonna go through the steps pretty quickly. I might talk about them briefly, but hopefully, well, there's other videos with throwing steps that you can go back through to watch the throwing steps specifically. So bring it up into a cone, push it down. Okay, when I push it down, that's gonna stay at a little bit of an angle. If it's this way, it would be my wrist low here. So I keep that bump on the top, bring it up again, push it down, get my centered piece of clay. A little off center, my wheel's going a little fast, I'll slow it down. Use your body to center the clay. Balance that pressure forward and down. Okay, now I'm going to drop the hole. I'm going to drop it down to 1/4 of an inch. So I keep this wrist low. Push that clay down. I want this clay to open up just a little bit. That gives me access to the interior so that I can compress the floor. Okay, stop the wheel, take your needle tool, measure the bottom. I feel like I'm a little thin. That's a tiny bit too thin. It's okay, I can move a little clay in when I compress the floor. Don't like to have water sitting in the bottom. Okay, keep your wrist low. Curl your finger back. Okay, until you get the width of the interior of your form that you're looking for. Okay, if I want a really wide cup, I'll open it really wide. If I want a narrower cup, I won't open it quite so far. Compress the floor. Start from the outside, move in, and inside, move out. Do that 4 or 5 times. On the bottom of mine, I like to leave a little bit of a spiral, so I do that. All right, so now I have that donut of clay. I need to make the volcano, so I'm gonna go underneath with my pinky. I lift and fold. Okay, you want a nice straight wall there. I'm gonna pull back, do the Spider-Man hands or the heavy metal hands, whatever you want to call it. Pull back just a little bit, give yourself a little bit of a groove. Okay, half a fawn, move that finger forward, just so that it's in line with those fingers, thumb up. Now I'm gonna turn my thumb down and put it on the other side of my belly button. I'm gonna lean over so that my weight is on my right-hand side if I'm right-handed. Okay, I'm gonna be pushing onto the clay with my outside hand, finger curled on the inside, and you're only gonna use, I'll mark it with the clay, that little point right there. That's the point that you're gonna use on this finger, and that should be the only thing touching the inside of the clay. Okay, pushing forward, pulling back. I'm gonna grab on, I'm gonna pull up. I kind of flatten that finger as I get towards the top. Get to the top, I stop, I take my hands off. Okay, compress the rim. Now the inside of my cylinder is kind of straight up and down. The outside has this angle. It's kind of buttressed on the outside. Now what I'm going to do, and this is your question here, Micah. Support on the inside with your middle finger. Okay, I'm going to press down. I'm going to push that clay up and under my inside finger with my outside hand. So that I create that groove there. Now I have something to grab onto. So this is the second pull. You only want one groove for each pull. Slow my wheel down. So my first pull, the groove's on the inside. Second, third, and so on, my groove's on the outside. You have to make a groove each time you make a pull. Okay, I'm gonna put my hand back in position. Again, it's as far over here as I can get. I'm gonna shift my weight over to my right-hand side. I actually have about 75% of my weight on my right hip, my right leg. I'm gonna push forward, I'm gonna pull back, I'm gonna grab onto that groove. And that bump on the outside is my inside finger pushing that clay out. I go up a 1/4 inch each time the wheel goes around. Each wheel revolution, I go up a 1/4 inch. So you should see a nice steady groove. I'm gonna compress the rim, okay? So I have a nice rim there to drink from. Okay, and the way that I do that is I hold around the rim like that. So my thumb's on the outside, middle finger's underneath. My index finger will shape the rim, and then this hand comes around and smooths it out. I'm just using the web here. I'm not squeezing, I'm just basically just kind of pushing down, okay? One more pull, one more groove. Wet the clay. You can slow the oil down just a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna grab on. Lift that bump up with your outside hand. Okay, get to the top stop, take your hands off, compress the rim again. All right, so now, once you get a nice even cylinder, you're gonna start removing clay, that excess clay from the outside. You might have a little bit more clay, more or less clay. It just depends on how you're pulling it. Hold it kind of like a chopstick, okay? I have my thumb on this side. I have these 3 fingers. I have a finger all the way up here, but they're not in the way of the blade, okay? I'm gonna put this hand on top, put my thumb in here. I kind of push it up against the piece. I'm actually using the tip of the tool, not the heel. I kind of push it up against the piece, and I'm gonna drop this down, straight down to the wheel, nice and slow, and I lift it straight back out. Now I can go underneath it with my needle tool, okay? I just go underneath it like that, so I'm holding my needle tool really flat to go underneath. Or, the way that I like to do it so I don't have to look for my needle tool, is I'm gonna flip this around so that I have my pinky and my thumb on one side. I'm holding onto this really tight, support like that, bring it right over that groove there. I'm just gonna push it down really fast, and it kind of bunches up on your tool. You're kind of creating a little off ramp for that extra clay there. Sometimes you have to kind of go back and clean it up. That's fine. All right, so now we're gonna shape it. Actually, now first we're gonna compress the walls. We're gonna get rid of all the slip. Before that, I'm gonna get rid of the water on the inside. Notice I haven't stopped the wheel. I'm just gonna hold on to the sponge with my fingertips. Press my sponge in the clay like that, just to get rid of the water. Okay, you don't want to leave any water on the inside. Okay, hold onto the rib like this. It's kind of an extension of the side of your index finger there. You can see I'm holding all the way at the end there. Put my thumb in the hole. This is going to pull back. Okay, this is 90 degrees to the clay, or about 45 degrees to the clay. So is this, and they're 90 degrees to each other, like that. But they're straight up and down. I'll start at the bottom. I'm going to pull back. This hand's going to kind of brace. I'm working at about 4:30, 5 o'clock on the outside. I'm going to pull that clay from the inside back into the outside hand. Watch the side of the clay as you do it. If you see a weird lump over here and you have this weight right here, if you see the lump in the, like these 2 things are not right across from each other, you'll kind of see a lump on the outside. You end up kind of shaping it weird if you do that. I'm gonna do a little bit more exaggerated shape than I did for the cups that I did for the regular demo, just to show you kind of some things that you can do. One thing is you can keep pushing this out. So I'm just gonna kind of pull back on this rib. Make sure you're using the kidney rib. Don't use the one with the point at the end. You want it rounded. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of pull this clay back and create a round spot here. Okay, so you can see that the shape of this is kind of the shape of that rib, okay? If you look at that profile and that profile. If I want to drop this belly down a little bit lower, I'll switch the direction of my rib so that I'm using the belly of the rib a little bit lower. Okay, if you don't want the clay to go out, don't push it out. So if your top is really far out here, you're not going to really be able to get it back in, okay? So don't push it out if you don't want to go out. I want mine to stay kind of narrow for now. Okay, so some other things that you can do There is a degree to which you can actually push it in. So let's say I want this to go in a little bit. I'm just gonna hold my inside finger right above it, and I can push that in with this other finger. Maybe I'll push it in here too. Okay, I'll push this out. I can make this go narrow just by squeezing it. I don't really like it to be very narrow. I can make it go wider. Basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a cone with my hand, kind of pushing it out. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can do it a lot less aggressively too. The clay actually does respond to fairly aggressive movements. If you're kind of shy about how you press on the clay, it doesn't really like to respond. So I tend, if you watch me, I tend to do things somewhat quickly. So I'll just kind of keep that little thing, that little shape on there. Okay, last thing, we'll create the foot. Now I can use this corner right here or this corner, just depending on the shape. I think I'll use this corner right now. So the corner of the triangle rib, and I push on the clay. It's like this. So it's like this. I'm not scraping the clay away. I'm not cutting the clay away. If you cut the clay, if you have it at an angle like this, it'll just cut right through the bottom of your piece. I'm just gonna push on the clay like that. Okay, I'm holding on to it. I have a finger right kind of near where I want to push on the clay. And it's going to push that clay in. Okay. Actually, well, I'll do the foot and then I'm going to fix the belly of the piece. Okay, so now I'm going to go underneath it. So I hold this at a really low angle, basically on the wheel, and I use it kind of as a ramp. And lift that clay up, and then I use my sponge to smooth it off. You don't have to make this type of foot on here. I like it because it's something to hold on to when I'm glazing. And when you have a runny glaze, so I'm just kind of pushing out the belly just a little bit with my rib here. Okay, you can also use your fingers to push the clay out. You can use your fingers on the inside to push it out, and then a metal rib on the outside to smooth it, or you can use fingers on both sides. You can see that this is a little bit wobbly. That's fine. When I turn the wheel off, do you notice that it's wobbly? All right, so don't freak out that it looks a little bit wobbly while the wheel is spinning. Okay, now you can either put water underneath it, cut it and slide it, or if you haven't made the clay totally sloppy and floppy and wiggly and wet, you can just cut it. Clean your hands off, and then kind of put the heel of your hand together like that, and lift it up instead of the side. Just like that. And you can make a cup any shape you want. It doesn't matter to me. It's your cup.